Welcome to Tent Talk, the podcast with Nancy McCready, where we talk about life under the big tent of God's presence and the provoking process of discipleship. Here we go.
Hey everybody, welcome to Tent Talk. This is Nancy McCready. Welcome to a series of conversations, Courage of Conviction. This is a very timely series. I pray it will provoke you to get ready for the hour of history in which we live. We cannot live being intimidated. We cannot live trying to maintain the status quo. It's time for us to step forward, living under the deep conviction that we'll say what our Father says, we'll do as He does, and we will live in the courage that accompanies our conviction. Stay tuned, my friends. I pray that these conversations will provoke you towards Him. I'm glad to be opening up a series of conversations on courage of convictions. Many months ago, I believe I mentioned it on a previous episode, how God began to challenge me that I would not always be able to relate to everyone, see all sides of everything, being able to understand everybody's point of view. He began to introduce the thought to me that this could become a point of barrier, a point of difficulty in moving forward in what He was calling me to. Not to say, or I didn't understand Him to say, that I wouldn't be able to have favor with many people or influence with many people of differing opinions and convictions, but that I had used this ability to see from all points of view and understand everyone. That had really been a coping mechanism in my earlier days. I had been through several things. I could understand so many different points of view from differing circumstances that people had lived through. I had watched things in my early years as I grew up. I wanted so much to be included and accepted and wanted that I would be what we would call a chameleon. I'll just adapt to whatever color I'm on. If I'm with this certain group of people, then whatever they believe, then I'll be fine with that. I can understand and I can see their point of view. And then if I'm with other people, then I'll believe what they believe, and I'll be able to be amiable and be flexible enough. And to some degree, I began to believe that all of that was a virtue. But eventually in life, what I came to see was that I did not hold to my own convictions. It was whatever helped me to survive, whatever caused me to be accepted, whatever would bring about the least amount of confrontation, whatever would keep the status quo, then that's what I would be willing to adapt to. So as you can see, this would be in direct opposition to my convictions that Jesus Christ is the only way to the Father. Not the only way to superiority or the only way to some high mansion in the sky. The only way to be restored to the Father and to live life as it was meant to be lived in full dependency upon Him. So in direct opposition, and I just recently, over the last month, as I was in Europe, I talked with folks about how we come to a place where we're going to have to decide, what is it that we truly believe? Will we be able to go forward in a serious new depth of conviction? Not just, que sera, sera, as the old saying would go. Whatever will be, and more of a laissez-faire attitude. But to really come to the place to know who I believe in, who I have trusted, and that I am adapting to Him in all ways, that my thoughts are His thoughts and my ways are His ways. I no longer see myself as someone distant from God, in opposition to God, never able to attain to Him. No, because the entire gospel says that He has brought me close to Him, so much so that I share in His very same life. So this whole aspect of the courage of our convictions has been with me now for weeks and weeks. And I've been meditating on it, thinking about it. Am I ready? And am I willing to go to new depths of taking what I call intelligent risk, which means it's going to be risky to go with God, but it'll be the most brilliant thing that you ever do, is to align yourself with Him, not just being one who is your own authority and you just reference yourself and I have just chosen to believe this or that, but to be under the serious conviction, not of the opinion of people, not of just I have researched everything and I have decided, but a conviction that comes from God Himself revealing Himself to you in the Scripture and inwardly in the knowing by the Spirit of God. And when that conviction is granted to you, and you know that you know that you know, then there is an accompanying courage that comes with it. Because once you really decide, this is what I believe, I am under the serious conviction of this, then there is courage that is going to be necessary to step out and to speak it, to live it, to be who God has made you to be. And so this series of conversations, I want to go in and look at different aspects of that. And why is this so important in the hour in which we live? So as I said, this is something that came to me, I could say many weeks, but now at this point it's months ago, when God began to very lovingly put His finger as though upon my chest and get my attention. Is, Nancy, what was once something that you took great pride in and thought was a virtue is going to come in direct opposition. Is that though I can appreciate where everyone comes from, if I am going to identify myself with the Father, and as Jesus lived, my loyalties be to Him, then that manner of life or that virtue, what I thought was a virtue, was going to now have to be laid down. Not so that I become offensive to every person, not that I am combative. That's not the point. The point is, who do I identify with? And more, I can sense Him drawing me to Himself in these things and in these convictions. One of the things, and maybe again I'll touch on this as the conversations continue about courage of conviction, is that when you're always afraid that someone's going to be able to prove you wrong, you're going to end up with egg on your face. You're going to end up being, putting it out there, and you feel quite bold, and then suddenly someone challenges you in a way, and you feel very small. And you don't quite have, quote, the talking points. You don't have the confrontational attitude to go toe-to-toe with them. You're going to be proven wrong, and you're going to be, again, put to open humiliation. And everyone's going to find out you don't really know what you're talking about. And when these kinds of things, now they may be different for you, but when these kinds of things whisper within us, we're always hedging our bets. And so it's not so much about argument, it's not so much about proving others wrong, but these are the kinds of things that come up, because actually it's in a whole different dimension, as I'm simply here to represent Him and His truth. to speak it and to let others make their decision as to whether or not they receive it, adapt to it, come to it, bow to it. It's not about whipping people around. It's not about thumping people with the Bible. You may have heard me make this statement in the past, is, yeah, I'm a Bible thumper, all right, and when I thump my Bible, it thumps me back, and it straightens me out, and it lets me know what is true, lets me know the plumb line, so that upon the foundation of Jesus Christ, everything else can be built. But this issue of the day and hour in which we live and the courage of our convictions, I mean, I have friends, close friends, who literally have cases being brought against them that are based upon falsehood, based upon someone else intimidating them, based upon mob attitudes where people feel quite powerful and quite invigorated to bring lawsuits against other people when they know that there is no grounds for it, but it becomes kind of the way of the moment. It's just the way things are done. So that if you don't do exactly as the mob says, if you are not politically correct, if you are not careful and do not bow to someone's money, to someone's, quote, gender identity, to someone's view of racism, whatever it may be, then you can be stripped down. I have other friends who will seek to speak truth in their own circle of family and friends in their own homes, and it can put them in grave danger. This is why there is so much abuse that goes on, is that if I make someone angry, then they may walk off from me. So this can be on many levels. I believe that it is going to be strongly necessary to do our homework, my friends. I think it's going to be, and this is a part of, and I mentioned this on a recent episode, stepping across thresholds, is that I'm not going to be able to just operate at the place where I've been and the level that I've been at. I thank God for it, but I think He's about to educate me on things, and that I need to have greater understanding of what's happening, if you will, behind the veneer of what we see. I do believe there is a reality behind reality. So, and I think you'll understand what I mean, is that we can just operate every day, everything's fine, everyone's friendly, but you do know there's a whole layer of society, whether you live in a large city or a small town, wherever, is that people are being abused by all those people that are smiling at you. There are manipulations, things that are happening. Things are not always what they appear. So there's a reality behind the reality. And when the curtain gets pulled back, when things are seen for what they are, then the majority of people are shocked. They're like, that can't possibly be true. Can that really be true? I mean, that person is so wonderful. I had no idea, right? Because, right, there is a reality behind the reality. And more, the veil is being drawn back. The curtain is being pulled back because we must face things. So when these kinds of things begin to happen, we are going to have to be ready to step forward and face truth, speak truth, live in truth. This is what Ephesians 4:15 says, speaking in truth, dealing in truth, so that we can grow up and truly mature. And this level of conviction, my friends, for us personally, corporately, nationally, internationally, if God is truly getting sons ready to be those who live, as Jeremiah 15 would say, in a settled place of quiet and safety, and to be the mouthpiece for God, we have to be very powerfully dealt with, because we're not going to be a mouthpiece for God because we're some superior being. It's going to be because we've been delivered from the very thing that we're probably about to be sent into. And it cannot be things that we are impressed with any longer. Because remember this, anything that impresses you, anyone that impresses you, therefore can intimidate you. Because somehow you're impressed with people or status, whatever it may be, ministry levels, all of these kinds of things. And you're so impressed that when you get in the presence of people, you go gaga. You can't speak. You fall all over yourself because just to be in the presence of that person. And it's like, wait just a minute. This is another person. It is a person that Christ died for. It's a person that he loves and he has set his affections upon. There is their value. But if you're so impressed with people that you literally would throw off all your convictions, you lose all courage in the moment, and you're so enamored, then you don't have the capacity to be able to speak truth to power. So maybe we might need to look at what are we impressed with, therefore, what do we become intimidated by? This might be a good question for us to start off this series of conversations with. Who impresses me? Because I'm thinking this person has something I don't have. They have more money, more smarts, more followers, these kinds of things. It's like, my friends, we're going to have to be people of depth during this hour of history. Superficiality is said to be an epidemic. We're not going very deep. And we are not people of conviction, deep conviction. People are wondering, is the Bible even true? Why is there even church? I mean, and I am the first one to say that I believe God is shaking everything that can be shaken. And I think church is going to emerge as to what it is that God wants it to be in this hour to him. And then who it will be on his behalf to the people. So I'm not holding to any idols of the past or anything, but we don't do away with the church. The church is Jesus's body, and she belongs to him. And he can shake her all he wants, because there will be the full trust that what he shakes needed to go anyway, and what remains will be of him. Oh, there will be a church left standing. You can rest assured about that. But all the ecosystems and all of these other things, these things can pass. So this is where we want to be ready to think as he thinks and to speak as he speaks. This is what Jesus said as the Son to the Father. I only say what my Father is saying, and I only do what he's doing. If we're going to be people of that depth of conviction, then we're going to need to definitely have the same courage that he had. So in the next episode, I'm going to speak about the courage that Jesus had. The courage that came with his deep conviction. Are we going to live like him? Then we don't want to be impressed with, as it would say, earthly things, to where it has the intimidation factor over us. So I pray that you'll begin to think with me on these things as we step into courage of conviction. Until next time, my friends.
For more information on Nancy, please visit nancymccready.com or follow her on social media at NBMcCready.